Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Algorithm. I'm your host, the Data Doc, and today we're going to be making a great video. It's a video on a RAG system which processes earnings of a company. So you can build this database over time, and then you can query only this database to pull information and ensure you have the accurate information that you're using AI to solve. You can create vast amounts of data in one location and then cipher through that information using AI. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So first, we want to test this workflow. I'm going to hit process by hitting play right here. And what's going to happen is I have a financial report in my Google Drive. I've already created a Pinecone Vector store here. And what's going to happen is we're going to hit play, and the information is going to be processed from our Google Drive. It's going to send the documents over. It's going to download it, convert it to a CSV, be processed into the vector store, and then the process continues until every document has been updated. So if you have a lot of information, a lot of financial reports, you can drop them all inside of your Google Drive, and this will automatically update your vector store every time you have a new information. So why is this important? If you're a company that is seeking to use AI, you want to have the AI call validated data sources. So what that means is if you have OpenAI that can reach out to the internet, you're going to have bias, and you're also going to have a lot of information and noise in your data that doesn't make sense. So what we just did was we uploaded this financial report to our vector store, and now we're able to open a chat window and ask it any questions we wanted. So I started out up here by asking this question, and we'll redo this so you can see what happens. It's going to tell me it doesn't have access to this information. I currently do not have direct access to the specific earnings report. We were asking it a question that was outside of its data sources. So then the next thing we did was we asked it to write a report. And again, it still ran into a problem. It said, it seems that I currently do not have access to this specific earnings. So then the last thing I did was I asked it to write a report on the data it does have. And so basically, one of the challenges with this is you do have to understand what information is within the data sources. And so it's going to limit the responses because you can't be overly broad with the questions you want to ask it. Again, it said, I do not have access to this. And so then the last thing I did was I wrote and analyzed the data you have. Let me hit that one more time. And then it created this report right here. So it's going to process it, it's sending it, and now we should get a response. Okay, so it's asking me what company. So let's put Google. So I'm going to ask it this question, write a report on the Google earnings. So I asked this AI, this RAG agent, to write a report on the Google earnings. And here was the report that I have down here. It has an executive summary. It has the revenue by quarters. Some of the information is missing, so it doesn't fill in any blanks. It keeps it from the data you give it. It gives it the key drivers of growth. It gives it some expense analysis. And, it's a very detailed analysis of your report. From this, we could email it to ourselves. We can send it on Slack. We can do many things of what we have this report. We can put it into a Word document and email it to ourselves. If any of these methods make sense, let me know. I can expand this for you and send you over to JSON. So if you find value in this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Join my school community where you can download this JSON for free. The link is in the description below. Stay tuned for the rest of this video so I can walk you through step by step of how to create the system. And if you run into any challenges, then you can solve them through this video. So to recreate this, the first thing I always want to do is update the name. So I'm going to update the name here and paste in this name. Now that I have the name completed, I need to give it a trigger. This trigger can be a couple of things. You can trigger it manually, which means you have to come in here and press this button every time. You can also trigger on Google Drive. I'm going to add this in and I'll send over this JSON as an updated one. So you have access to 2 JSONs on this. But the triggers, when you go to Google Drive, you go to the bottom of this and you have the triggers. And now it's on change involving a specific folder. So anytime this folder is updated, this will process. So it's very useful. So mine is called the financial report. So essentially what I've done here is my Google Drive is linked. Every minute it will look. You can do every hour, once a day. You can set it however you want. You keep this the same, and then you have to select the folder from the dropdown. So I'm selecting financial report because that's my folder within Google Drive. So financial report. So now I can go back. You can watch for file updated or file created. Since we're dropping files in, we're going to say file created, and then we can fetch the data. And so now that file has just come in and it's been in process into N8N. So I'll put these up and down so that I know they're the triggers. So we have this information here. I'm going to leave this trigger here, but essentially what you could do is you could loop it in. So now continuing with the video, I've given you another option for a trigger. What I'm going to keep doing is the manual method, which is the one that I created before. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to add in a Google Drive node again. And the Google Drive node that we want to do is search a file and folder. And so what we're going to do is we need to fill in all of this. And essentially we keep this the same, but we need to just explain to it what folder we want it to download or to review. So we have to add a filter. That filter is going to add in which folder you're going to receive. So now I need to find the financial report. So here's the folder. We can test this out. And it's pulled in that same information that this Google node pulled in. So since this was a trigger, since that was the first time it saw this, it downloaded it. Now I've manually triggered this, so it redid the same thing. It searched and it's seen this inside of it. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to put in a loop. And the loop is going to allow it to go line by line and review each one. So we give it a 1 size. And what this means is it's going to process, if we put it in a table, it's going to process this one, send it through. And then once it's completed the entire node or the entire workflow, it'll come back and process the next one. So you're not, I'm going to delete this. So you're not having a large amount of information at one time. So now once we have that loop completed, we'll add in a Google download, a Google Drive, and then download. And this is where we're downloading the file. So right now we still don't have any information inside of N8N. We have just the information of, hey, I've seen a file out there. So since we're downloading a file, what we need to do is download that specific file. And so we have it on the folder right now, company finances. I need to go down to the actual file name, which I know it to be 2024 Alphabet earnings release. I select that, and I know that because when I go back to my Google Drive, this is the name of the file right here. So now once I have that, I can test it out and I can see the actual file is going to be downloaded in to N8N. So if I view this, I can see the file is actually here and we actually have the information in N8N. So, all right, so the next thing we're going to do is if you have multiple files, we would have to add in a filter or an if or a switch, right? So since we know this to be a PDF, we want to extract the information from a PDF. So we extract from a file. Again, if you have Excel spreadsheets, if you have Google Sheets, you would have to go to convert file first. So what that means is we would go to Google Sheets and we would convert the file into a language that the RAG system or Pinecone would understand. So the Pinecone may not understand Google Sheets, but it understands a CSV file. So you can convert it to CSV and then submit it. So this is one workaround for some of this. If you need help with that, it takes a little bit more work on the back end. You have to set up switches and filters. But since we have a PDF, we're going to extract from a file and we're going to extract from a PDF. So basically, we keep this the same. It's going to process this and send that information through. It's just an extra step that I like to do and make sure all of the information is good to go. So the next thing we need to do is set up our Pinecone store. So now we can click the plus and add Pinecone Vector store. And then we need to add documents to the store. So what we have to do here is we have to select the store we're going to send it to. So let me show you how to create the store. So when you go into the Pinecone Vector store, you'll be at this location right here. I will go back here and I will delete the store so you can see how to do this. So you always have to type in financial data or whatever the name is. So now I should have no information. It's going to delete it. Let me update this. So now you'll enter the page somewhere here. You want to create an index. And so now we're making the store that the Pinecone Vector store in N8N is going to call. So this name is going to be the dropdown that you saw. So we can put financial data. Now, what's really important about creating this is you have to remember which AI model you pick. So since I use the free method and AI is very easy, I just put text embedding small. You can choose whatever you want, but when you do this, you need to make sure you understand which one you choose because it's going to be important when you set up the rest of the store. If you scroll down, since I'm on the free version, I can only have AWS and I can only have Virginia as my location, and I can create the vector store now. So now my store has been made right here. It has no records, which means nothing has been put into the store. Now, when I go back here, I select financial data, and now that store is connected. Now I have financial data connected to the Pinecone financial data. Now this is still red because when you do this, you have to embed it. So what we want to do is embed it with AI. This is where it's really important to understand. Remember, I was telling you text embedding small. So this has to match that AI system we talked about. You have options to put large or text embedded ADA002. Since we chose small on the other one, we need to choose small on this one. If you don't, you'll run into an error and it will drive you crazy. And then the documents. So now the Pinecone store is here. What we need to do is we need to tell the Pinecone store how to load that information. So we're going to choose the default loader, and then we're going to load all the information. You don't have to do anything to this, so it just stays the same, right? So now we need to add a text splitter. So what a text splitter is, if you have that document out, it's going to split up the text inside of that document into smaller chunks. So then it could read it and grade it and give it a score so that information is prioritized. This is very important when you're setting this up, because when you have large amounts of data, you have to understand some of these key points. So first you click the plus and you do character splitting. You can do recursive splitting. You can do token splitting. We're going to do recursive splitting. Say that 10 times. And so what you want to do is define the chunk size. The chunk size can be whatever you want it to be. It's an arbitrary number, but what makes sense? 1,000 is normally good. But since we have a small document, what we are going to do is we're going to make it 500. And then what you have to do is define the chunk overlap. What that means is we've chunked out a big document into a smaller chunk. And now what we need to do is we need to have an overlap of those chunks. So when the AI is reading it, it will understand because it has some of the last text that has been cut out. So imagine if you're reading a book and it says, "We went to play basketball and I shot the ball." Then you split that up and all you have for the context is "I shot the ball." That could be with a gun. It could be many ways that you can shoot a ball. So splitting it, it would be able to say basketball or some kind of context and it will understand. So from this, we can say 20, just because the chunks are small. And now we have the Pinecone store set up. I can hit play on this and it will process this. Now, once that's complete and we know it's processed, you can take this plus and run it to the loop, and it will continue to process all of the data inside of the system. So now we have the system set up. We can scroll down and we can see of that document I have in there, that one document from the Google Drive has turned into 70 records within the Pinecone Vector store. Now we see here the Pinecone Vector store, and we can scroll down and see the records. And this gives you the information, but what's most important is the score that it's getting here. And this is going to be what it calls back when you are pulling that information. So this is going to prioritize how it's reading it and how it's filtering that information. So now we have the Pinecone Vector store set up. If you want to use this Google method right here, what I would do is I would take this and I would send it into the loop, because we don't need to research it. We already have it downloaded. All right, so now this is set up. I'm going to click save. I'm working in the cloud environment, so I like to press save, because if you don't, there's times it will crash, and I've had to remake a few of these workflows because it ends up like freezing. So now when I'm down here, I have another trigger to start my actual AI agent that can call from this. So here you can do a couple of different ways. I'm going to do the test. Where did that go? So I'm going to do the when a chat is received. And this is great for testing out a workflow. So when you're in a workflow, you need to troubleshoot it, put this in, you have a chat window, you can just ask it questions as you're going. You can do many things here. I'm going to give you another option. I'm going to show you Telegram, and you can put on message. So essentially what you're doing is you can send it a message and from Telegram. So essentially what I've done is I've given you another option for a Telegram trigger. What this trigger is going to do is it allows you to enter in Telegram, and you can create a bot. And I've created a Datadog bot, and I can send a message to the N8N, and it will send me back a message through this. So that's a method. There's many methods to do, but since we're troubleshooting, we're going to continue with this, and we can have an advanced AI agent. So now we have this already completed. I think we're going to have to switch this to define below. So define the prompt below, and then we have a custom prompt that we're going to put in here. Again, don't screenshot, just go to my school community. And in the school community, you can get this for free. Once you have this prompt in saying what it does, you want to give it another system prompt. And you've given it kind of what it does. Now you're going to tell it how to do it and what you expect it to complete at the end. Again, school community, don't screenshot it, but I will give you a chance to see how it looks. This is the prompt in its whole. And essentially what we're telling it is you're the financial analyst, call these tools. And so it's going to read this and understand what tools it has access to access and call and use. And then we give it a structure of how to create the report. And then that's basically the entire prompt. So once you have that complete, you can, it's going to be red always. We can connect this, and this will allow it to be either one. And so we have to always give this a brain. Right now, it's just an agent. It doesn't do anything. If we hit the chat model, now we're going to give it the brain so that it can function and understand what to do. So all you have to do is add it in. if you have your accounts already connected, it's going to automatically link and move it over, and it turns to the color it needs to do. Now, what I like to do is I always like to give it memory. This memory is going to allow it to call back how many messages you've sent it. So we keep it 5. So every 5 messages, it can listen and remember what it was saying in the past. So if you ask it about something, it's going to understand the context from that in the past. So building on that, we need to give it some tools. So it has a brain, it can think, it has memory, but it can't really do anything. So once we have that, we need to give it some tools. So here we're going to add in the vector store. And so what we have is in-memory vector store. So we're going to click vector store, and then we're going to go down to vector store question and answer. So now this is going to give us the ability to ask it questions, and we need to define what it's going to call. So this is the name of the tool it can call. And then we got to give it a short little description of the data. So retrieve information about company finances. So retrieve information about company finances. So now we can add here the different models. Since I wanted to show you a different method, we're going to add in the Gemini model. And I already have it connected. It's relatively simple. If you want to connect it, you can go here, connect your credentials, and then you just open the documents and follow this step-by-step guide. If you need help, join my school community. I will walk you through how to do it line by line. So since this is good to go, we're going to move this over. We need to add the Pinecone Vector store. So now all you have to do is click the plus. It limits the options of what you can do. Since we have that vector store made, we're going to add Pinecone Vector store. And now we need to choose from the list. Everything is going to stay the same. It's going to give you the list. If you have multiple stores, since we only have this one for this demo, this is what we're going to select, and we can close it down. And now it's going to wonk it up. I like to keep it structured so it looks nice and clean. Keep the lines out so you can see the architect and the structure. Now, the last thing we need to do is, remember, this is one of the most important steps. You need to add in an embedded AI. Now, the reason I use this embedded AI is because the Pinecone Vector store tells you which one to use. Remember, this is very important. We selected small when we created the store. We have to select small here. If you chose large, you can choose large. You're not limited to that, but you have to remember you did that from the Pinecone Vector store. So now we have this set up. I move it over here, turns back the color we need it. So now everything is set up. Now this works properly. I can open this up and I've processed some information. So now I can go in here and ask it, write a report on Google's earnings. And when I hit play, it's going to run through. Once it's complete, it's going to complete all the way through. And remember, it only has the Google data, so it's only going to process that. And now we have a complete report with the markdowns and all the information you need in one location. We could email it to ourselves. We can telegram it to ourselves. We can do many methods. So if you enjoyed this video of creating a RAG system of financial earnings, please give this video a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel. I make these every week. So join my school community. You could download this in the school community completely free. And also, if you have questions, we can solve those questions in that community. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. I'm the Data Doc. I appreciate your time. Bye.